Okay, so we're going to do lesson 87, and it's division with fractions. So we're going to talk about using manipulatives and sketches and graph paper and Legos to figure this thing out. So let's review first. What is division? It's breaking things up into smaller groups, right? So taking a group and dividing it into smaller pieces. So there's our division problem, 3rd grade, probably, right? 6 divided by 3 equals 2. So what we're saying is a group of 6 things divided into smaller groups with 3 in each group. So if I have 6 cookies and it's in a bag, and I want to break them into groups of 3 cookies each, how many people could I give them to? So let's look at that. So I've got my 6 cookies here, and I'm going to break them into groups of 3. So there's one, there's another group. How many groups do I have? 1, 2. So 6 divided by 3 equals 2. Turns out there are 2 groups of 3 in the whole piece, or in our case, the bag of cookies. Okay? So we're going to do the same thing with fractions. A couple things you have to remember first. We know that 4/4 equals 1 whole piece. So look at our Legos over here. We have one whole piece. Forgot to stick them down. And we've broken them into 4/4. 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4, right? So 8/8 is the same thing as 1 whole. So I've got 1 whole here, and I've got, I think those are 12ths. So forget that one for a minute. 8/8 is the same thing as 1 whole. So if I want to do fraction division, I'm going to say, if I take 3/4 of that 1 whole, so let's make myself 3/4, so 1, 2, 3/4 out of that whole, how many 1/8 is in that 3/4, that amount? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So it's just like the cookies. I have this amount. I'm dividing it into groups that size. How many of those pieces that size do I have in this amount? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 3/4 divided into groups of 1/8 each equals 6. So 3/4 divided into groups of 1/8 each equals 6. Okay, so we can do it a couple of different ways using math, but we're going to use sketches and, in my case, Legos to help us out. So it's really weird because when you think about fractions, when you divide fractions, you get a bigger number. So 3/4 divided by 1/8 is 6. So let's figure out why that happens. It's not critically important that you understand this piece yet, but I wanted to throw it out there. So let's go back to dividing by whole numbers. Dividing 24 by 4 means that I have to find out how many 4s, groups of 4, it takes to make 24. Okay, so if I have 24 sticks, you'll have to take my word for it. I'm sure you can't count them on the computer. I can divide 24 by 4 by counting out groups of 4 sticks each. So 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24. So I have 6 groups with 4 in each group. Okay, so that makes sense. And you know that 24 divided by 4 is 6. That's the easy part. But here's why. Since each group contains more than 1 stick, there are fewer groups than there are sticks. And that's kind of an important idea, right? Because I'm taking my big group of sticks and dividing them into smaller groups, but each has more than 1 stick in it, okay? So now we're going to start dividing fractions. So let's divide 6 by 1/4. That means I want to find out how many 1/4 it takes to make 6. So 6 divided into groups of 1/4 each, right? Okay, so I have my 6 sticks again. But now I want to divide them into 1/4 each. So I got to break up my sticks. So I'm going to break each stick into 4 pieces, right? So there's 1 stick, 2 sticks, 3 sticks, and there's the 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4. So that's my whole stick, right? So if I look at this, how many groups of 1/4 each do I have? 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24. So 6 divided by 1/4 is 24. I find that there are 24 quarter sticks. Since each stick has been turned into 4 pieces, there are more pieces than sticks. So the result of the division is greater than the original number of sticks. Right? Does that make sense? So if you divide whole numbers, you get a smaller answer. And you multiply, you get a bigger answer. But fractions are a little bit different most of the time. So if I have dividing fractions, 6 divided by 1/4, I get a bigger answer. And when I multiply fractions, 24 times 1/4, I get a smaller answer. So fractions are a little bit different, but it's the same concept. Okay, so we're going to work on lesson 87 in your math book. I'm on page 566 in your section book. And they want to say 3/4 divided by 1/8. So remember, this is the amount I have, 3/4. And I'm going to break it into groups of 1/8 each, okay? So I'm going to draw my pizza, and luckily, because I'm horrible at circles, they drew it for me. And they made sure that I had 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, so I have 3/4. But then they wanted to cut those 4ths into 8ths, because that's how many I want to see how many 8ths I can fit into that amount, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, so 3/4 divided by 1/8 is 6, because I can fit 6 1/8s in that 3/4 of a pizza, right? Okay, another one. Again, how many 1/8s are in 1/2? I like to say 1/2 has how many pieces of 1/8 each, because that's the way it's written. You can do it this way, you can do it this way, either way. But remember which number comes first when you're looking at the question, okay? Again, I like to say 1/2 has how many 1/8s in it, whatever. So they're good at drawing circles. They do a half a circle. So you have a half. Then they break that half into 1/8. And how many do they have? 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1/2 can be broken into 4 pieces of 1/8. So my answer is 4. Here's the same pizza pie one, right? Except for now they're doing 3/4 divided by 1/4. So what are they asking me to find? 3/4 broken into how many pieces of 1/4 each? 1, 2, 3. So 3/4 divided by 1/4 is 3. Make sense? Now they're saying, okay, 1 divided by 1/3. So 1 whole pizza divided into slices of 1/3 each. How many slices do I have? 1, 2, 3. 1 divided by 1/3 is 3. Cool. Okay, they're using the clock face. If you have a clock face, great. If you do not want to draw circles, make squares. You get the same answer as long as all your squares are the same size. Use a ruler if you need to. Mine